Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The AI-Driven Transformation of Software Testing. My name is Joya Scarlata, and I will be your moderator. I work on the marketing team here at Intra IT, and I'm excited to be hosting today's session. I am pleased to announce today's speakers, Raj Rao from Autonome IQ and Arvind Parimal from Intra IT. Raj Rao is the co-founder and VP of Products and Solutions at Autonome IQ. He has a very illustrious career in the tech industry spanning over 20 years, working for firms such as Oracle, SAP Labs, and NTT Data. Arvind Parimal is a senior director for Intra IT, driving new business development and managing strategic accounts to position Intra IT's QA offerings. Before I hand the mic over to Arvind, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. Firstly, today's webinar is recorded. We will be sharing a link to access the recorded webinar after this session. We would also love to hear from you regarding today's presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to write it in the chat box or in the QA box. Or you can email us at webinars@intrait.com. We will be answering questions at the end of this session. If we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up with you after this session. So without further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming Arvind. Arvind, over to you.
The time out of your busy schedule to be with us, to join us on this webinar. Let me get started really quick. I got a couple of slides I do want to talk to you, I'll share with you about what we
Arvind, can you just speak a little bit louder, please?
Oh, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. Again, welcome everybody. This is Arvind with Intera. Thank you, Joya, for the introduction. So I really do appreciate all of you joining us on this webinar. Let's get started very quickly here. We are a 23-year-old company headquartered in the Silicon Valley. We have hundreds of customers globally with offices in multiple countries around the world. As you can see from our slide, we have been working with our customers on an average of 5 years or more. So we have a pretty lengthy lengthy relationships with our customers. QA is one of our largest practices. We offer a wide range of QA solutions, and if you look at it, from existing testing footprints, end-to-end regression, agile and DevOps, and now recently we've started working with Autonome IQ to offer AI-based, AI/ML-based solutions. So we partner with leading-edge Silicon Valley technology companies to bring our customers the next generation solutions. And as you can see, we've been working with fairly large customers, like if you look at it, Intel, ServiceNow, VMware, Mazda. So we have quite a few customers around the globe that we provide our QA services to. With that said, I would like to hand this over to Raj to talk about our AI solution.
Thank you, Arvind. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. First of all, let me just give you a general introduction to AI, and then let us quickly focus on how AI can help testing domain. We are about to see a major transformation in testing. The traditional testing methods will not be able to meet the needs of the agility and the complexity of software that is coming to us. In other words, across the industry, there is so much change going on, and at such a pace that the traditional testing approaches will not meet the need and meet the demand. So we have to look at some other techniques, and AI is a great place to start. If you look at this chart here, for example, there are, when you talk about AI is not like one specific item. There are many branches of AI, and this graph illustrates very nicely. all the way from machine learning to natural language processing to speech recognition, vision, and robotics, and so on. So this is a full-blown domain of AI. But in terms of how we apply that, if you go to the next slide, what we can do is take some of these things and apply that to testing domain. And that's what we have done at Anomic. And how we do this is, first, we talked about natural language processing. So we are able to leverage natural language, domain-specific natural language processing to understand the test intent. What I mean by test intent is your test intent is expressed in your test case. That's it. If somebody can write English, test case in English, then we can start that as a starting point and actually do all of the rest of the testing for you, meaning generate the test script, execute the test script, deliver the results, and log the defects. All of those things are done automatically for you by just expressing your intent in English. That is the first, leveraging natural language processing and creating new test assets. And then the next thing is application change management. So when applications change, which happens every day, in some organizations, actually in many organizations, applications changing on a daily or weekly basis. So how do you deal with the change? First, you have to understand the change. You have to do a change impact analysis, and then you have to do change resolution. All of this is done by AI for you. Also, with AI, we are able to take the existing test cases and augment those test cases, because we will use your current test cases as a learning data set and augment those test cases where there are gaps and create new test cases and execute it. So overall, AI can be used in many ways, all the way from just understanding the test intent and executing taking that and generating the script and so on. Also application change management, and then finally augmenting the test cases. One other thing I didn't mention is actual image recognitions. So for example, if your application has embedded images, and the image could be a car, a picture of a car, or a picture of a person standing, or whatever, you can assert and validate that those images are what they should be. So even image mapping and those kinds of things are available in our platform today. If you go to the next slide. So today, this is kind of the spectrum of what is possible in applying AI to the testing domain. We call this stages of autonomous testing. So today's frameworks have no intelligence. When I say no intelligence, what I mean is it's all manual effort. You have a test case created, you write the test script using Selenium or some other technology, and you execute it. You create the test environments by hand. You execute it. You collect the results. Everything is done by hand. So there is really no intelligence whatsoever. And over a period of time, you can see here on this graph, AI is helping create and maintain automation, and AI is recommending what you need to be testing. And then one day soon, AI will fully test your software. All our product will need is a URL to your application and an integration to your CI/CD pipeline. So we will know when the changes are coming, and as the changes are coming, we can automatically take the test, the URL or the application, and vectoring the two, we can actually generate the test cases, execute the test cases, and deliver the results. So that is kind of the full spectrum of possibilities, and different companies are in different places in this journey. So next slide. So I'm going to now specifically focus on what Intera IT and Autonomic can do for you specifically. So this picture here is an illustration of how we go about working with enterprises. At the bottom of the picture, you can see a typical enterprise portfolio of applications. you have Microsoft Dynamics, you have Workday, you have Salesforce, you have all different types of applications, some for CRM, some for ERP, some for homegrown digital applications, and so on. So we recognize that our application works with all of those portfolio of applications. We also look at testers. Testers come in different flavors. There are testers who are purely manual testers. There are test analysts. There are SDETs. SDETs are automation engineers. And then there are business analysts. So we, in our platform, we support all those different roles. We also recognize that there are plenty of CI/CD and Agile frameworks in place at a typical enterprise. So, for example, you have Jira, you have Jenkins, and so on. We have native integration to all of those things. Okay, so to all these applications, all these tools, so that way we can leverage and we can be part of your CI/CD framework. Finally, we look at testing in 3 phases: planning, execution, and analysis. So as you can see in planning, it is creation of test case, test script, and test data. And during execution, it is creating test environment for a cross-platform, cross-browser combination and automatically executing it, even concurrently executing it. So this is execution. Analysis is essentially dashboard reporting and also doing the change impact analysis and then change resolution. So this is how our product works today. We handle any SaaS application, any cloud application, any web application, any API or microservice. This is essentially how we go about solving testing problems today. Next slide. These are some of the features I'm going to demonstrate in a second. So as you can see here, we help in accelerating test case creation. Number one, once the test case is created, we automatically generate the test script for that particular test case. And then we automatically, let's go back to the previous slide. Yeah, thank you. Automatically create the test environment and execute the tests with no human intervention. And then once the tests are complete, we can accumulate all the test results in a report, also as a video, and demonstrate that. And that will be for compliance purposes. And then finally, dealing with application change. When application changes, we automatically heal it, and I'm going to demonstrate that as well. So this is the introduction to our core capabilities and what we're going to demonstrate in a second. So with that, we can switch over to demonstration. So Joya, if you can stop sharing, I will share. Thank you. I hope you can all see my application. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So this is, I just logged into my application, and this is what you see. Here is the dashboard, and you can see various tiles here talking about failures, alerts, and so on, and also recent changes, and you can change the timelines for recent changes and the projects we're involved in, and then also recent executions. You can see recent executions, which tests have been executed, and so on. So you can get a detail in the last 24 hours, what happened, and so on. So you can get this. We also have a ton more data that we can easily export to your enterprise dashboard. So whatever dashboard you have, we can easily export that. So in terms of where testers spend their time, and here is the, give me 1 second. So the testers spend most of their time in projects. So in projects is where I create my tests. And so if you look at this project, for example, each project is targeted at a specific application. And the application in this case is Salesforce, as you can see here. So for this, my starting point is a test case, right? And I have a test case which is written by a test analyst, which looks like this. It has an objective, it has some test steps, and some test information about also the expected results and so on. Okay, so this is basically a typical test case that everybody knows how to write. It's as long as you know how to express yourself in English, you can write this test case. And we take this as the input. Okay, and once we take this as the input, we essentially import that test case. And I have a Salesforce test repository, and you can see here, this is my Salesforce test repository, and this is the test case I just showed you. I import that test case. And the next step I do is, we believe in data-driven testing, so I have a separate data file that is responsible and has all the data needed for this test. So I just imported the test data, and now all I have to do is, when I hit submit, my job as a tester is complete. What it will do is it will automatically take the English test case we have submitted and the test data. It will discover the application, and it will process each test step, and then generate the test script, execute the test script, and deliver the results. All of those things that would have taken me hours upon hours to do is done in minutes. So let's see how this works. So I'm going to go hit submit. And as soon as I hit submit, the processing has already begun, right? And then let us go take a look at how it is doing. And in fact, if you look at the original steps, this is the content from this test case. As you can see here, this was a test case. This content was extracted and processed in this fashion. This is number one. So you can see, this is, by the way, this is not one of the common questions I get asked, is this a keyword-driven framework? It is not. It's not a keyword-driven framework. It's just an English. Anybody can write it in whichever way they want. Instead of saying, for example, open, you can say go to website or click on website. Whatever terms you want to use, we will honor those things. Because this is a very powerful NLP engine behind this. And then you can also say, things like enter username, enter password, simple statements, or you could make it a complex statement like this. Okay, so it doesn't matter. We are able to process it. And once we take this, you can even put verifies. You see here, it is as simple as verify contact detail is on the screen. That's it. You don't have to do anything more. Verifications, assertions, validations, all of those things are done in simple English like that. Now let us see how the platform is processing it. You can see here, every step, open the website, it actually does something and shows us what it is doing. So there is a screenshot to validate that this step is correct, is doing it right. And so for every step, right, if you look at, for example, click on login, and it is clicked on login and it's highlighting what it did, right, and so on. So on this page, also it is intelligent enough to say, look, there were 2 logins. Actually, the top of the page also has a login. So there are 2 logins on this page, but I use the second login, right? It is telling the test analyst, look, I'm using, 2 logins were found, 2 elements were found, I'm using the second login, right? So which makes sense because it's contextually, that is the right one you should use. So this processing goes on, and in a few minutes, when it is completed this processing, the script is automatically generated, test environments are automatically created and executed. So in the interest of time, let's go take a look at the one I just ran a while ago. And that is this test case, which is the same test case I just ran a few minutes ago. So you can see here how it runs. Every test step, like for example, enter opportunity name, subject, and comments, and you can see that here it is doing the same thing. Right? Enter opportunity name, it automatically entered the opportunity name as new opportunity. You see here, all you have to say is enter opportunity and new opportunity, and it knows what to do with it, right? And then the test, enter subject, it entered subject, and so on. So you can see for everything we do, enter comments is entering the comments in the comment box, right? So it's as simple as that. And now what happens is at the end of it, so it has completed everything. In fact, the verification step I want to show you, so verify contact detail on the screen, it actually verifies that contact detail is on the screen. As you can see here, contact detail is highlighted. So it does that, and then the next thing it does is it is automatically generated the script for us. And here is the test script, as you can see, right? So this is about 1,400 lines long test script, and it was generated within minutes, and that would have taken you days, if many hours to days. So and here is the code, and you can see here we have commented everything. So that way you can look at the code, like open the website, enter the username, enter password, and so on, right? I mean, all the code is documented, and so on. So you can see that. By the way, every asset we create, you can download or import into your, whatever. Some people store it in GitHub, or some people store somewhere else. So we can easily support those integrations. We also generate a report, and this is an HTML report. As you can see here, this report has lots and lots of details, right? You can see step description, status, step time, and the actual step, and then the screenshot for each step, right? You can see this, like for example, select account name, account. You see, you can hide the account details by using a variable. So that way nobody can see what it is. By clicking on the image, you can make it bigger, and then you can go back to the small format, and so on. So you can see here, this is, the details of everything you can see, and so on. So it's a detailed report. And then beyond this detailed report, it also provides us an actual evidence of execution. Evidence of execution can be seen by just clicking on this image, and you can see, for example, because we execute this in the cloud, and there are concurrent executions going on, you may not be able to watch it, but we've captured every single video, and you can see the evidence of execution. Every action is annotated, and that's what you see here as the information gets entered. You can see it is going on, and on whatever step it is doing, you can see the annotation and the video and so on. So that is basically in a nutshell, the summary of what the platform does. Generates the script, executes it, creates the test environment, executes it, generates the evidence of execution, as you could see there. So those are some of the highlights of our core capabilities. Let me add a few more things. For example, you can look at the data. So the data files are stored in a separate place, and you can actually preview the data. And this is the data file. You can see the top row is all labels, and the second row is all the values. If you have 5 rows, we will know that you need to do 5 iterations, and we will go do that. So that is how iteration is done. You also can set up your own test environment by hand. For example, you can select platforms, and you can select browsers, and then hit execute, and it will go execute that test script on it. Okay, so that is an option also available. You could do one by one, or you could just automatically configure it. So at runtime, it will do it on all those platforms automatically. So there is a concept of test suite. The test suite is where you can create an end-to-end test. What that really means is you take a bunch of test cases and organize them in such a way that you can do an end-to-end test. And that is the concept of test suite. And within the test case, you can also do one more thing. For example, each one of these, let us say that you wanted to create a component. And all you have to do is just click on the tile, each tile at each step, and then you can say, I want to create a component. We call the component a flow, and you want to create a component, and then you can enter the component name. And in this case, let us say I want to call it login flow. And if in the moment I add this, it becomes part of my library. And from now on, everybody who needs those steps don't have to individually list them. They just call the login flow, and the login flow executes it for you. Okay, so it's very, very powerful in terms of having components be, multiple components be part of a test case, and then the test case, create the test suite, okay, be part of the test suite, and the data separation is built right into the platform and so on. So it's a very, very powerful product from that perspective. So now what we will do is we will switch from test case creation to application change management. I'm going to show you a demo on that. So before I go to that, let me summarize what I showed you so far, so everybody's with me. We started out with a simple English test case, right? We started with a simple English test case that every tester writes. And from this test case, we were able to generate the test script, which I showed you, execute the test script, create the test environment, execute the test script, generate all the reports, and all of that stuff. So this is good for the test asset creation part. But once the test assets are created, things keep changing. And how do you deal with change? How do you deal with application change? And then, because that is a huge problem for most customers. And so we have solved that. So let us switch to that and then go take a look at that, okay? So for application change management, we have a little demo. And before I start this demo, I've actually recorded this simply because it requires multiple tools like Git and Jenkins and so on. So I'm going to show you all the integration between Git, Jenkins, and our platform. All of that stuff will be demoed in a second. It's too difficult for me to do all of those things. That's why we just did a video of it, and the video will show you the whole thing. Before we get into this, let me describe what is an application change. An application change is illustrated by our loan application. We have a loan app, and in this loan application, the developer did a good job of developing the app. It was working. The testers were testing. They had created some test assets, like these test cases, and everything was working fine. Until the business person, the business owner comes in and says, you know what, I want to make a change. I don't like this particular label, right? He has a label called "that is fine." He says, I want to change please change that to first name, right? So now, as soon as the developer does the change, all the test cases will be out of sync. And we have a problem there, right? So let us show you. This is illustrating that there are multiple test cases with the same problem. And let's go and take a look at the loan application. This is a loan app. And in the loan app, you can see we have this label that was a mistake. The developer is going to correct it to first name now. Okay, today we call it "that is fine." So let us go. The developer makes the code change in a second. Since the developer is making the code change, we're going to change it to first name. And once the developer makes the code change, he does a commit in Git. And once the commit is done, he will refresh the app. And the app gets refreshed. And you see here, the app is already changed. So the application now doesn't have "that's fine," it has first name. So we have a problem now, right? Because all the tests are still pointing to a wrong label. Now, the developer goes to Jenkins. This is Jenkins, as you can see here. And from Jenkins, the developer does a new build and pushes it to a new test environment. And that automatically triggers our test cases. So what that means is we have an integration with Jenkins, where Jenkins APIs call our tests automatically. So when that happens, all the tests will be run. So as you can see here, we're getting it deployed into a new environment, and the tests are going to be called, and all the tests fail, right? If you can see here, all the tests fail. Automatically triggered tests fail. Not all the tests that are using that particular label failed. So let us go see why they failed. So the tester is saying, tester doesn't understand why this was working fine. Why did it fail? Can you see this here? Label has been changed. We detected the change. We're saying label has been changed from that's fine to first name. Big, big detection, right? I mean, this is a big step. Automatically detecting what changed. Change detection has happened. Now, we will also tell you the change impact. We tell them, look, all these test cases, you see here, multiple test cases are impacted with the same problem. So now what we do is we also propose a resolution. We say, let us go fix the label so that, we can align it back. So the developer, the tester doesn't have to do anything except approve it. So now we provide an approval cycle. See here, are you sure you want to approve this change that we are proposing? The change we're proposing is changing that's fine first name. And if you approve it, it is automatically changed and automatically, you see here, we automatically make a change and automatically execute it. And now you can see the change we have done. So all the test cases are running. Now, the first one is successful. You can see here, we changed, without a human intervention, we changed the that's fine to first name. And new scripts are generated and executed, and everything is working fine. So this change resolution, automatic change resolution with just approval, is a huge benefit to developers and testers. So that, in a summary, what application change management is: detecting the change, impact analysis of the change, resolution of the change with approval. So all three things were accomplished fully with our AI platform. So that is essentially the demo. Just to summarize, we started out with an English test case, right? By the way, we also have an ability to record a test case that we have. But if you have 3,000 test cases, you definitely don't want to go record all of those in using a recording capability. So therefore, we most customers prefer to import their existing test cases and run with it. So we started with the English test case, automatically generated the test script, executed it, generated all the reports, and then when the application changes, we are fully integrated with the CI/CD pipeline. So that way we detect the change, we propose a change resolution, and once the tester accepts it, we fix it automatically and run it, and put adjust the test assets so that they are aligned back to the application. That is the demo portion. So now we can go back to the presentation. So let me stop sharing and and Joya, you can start sharing the slides. Thank you. We can go to the next slide. Yes. So this is essentially, if you can see this picture here, this talks about the where is the ROI, right? If you say, what is the ROI? We have identified ROI for test case creation and change, application change. So test case creation, what would take hours upon hours, 5 hours typically, to do one test script. We do it in minutes. Object changes, it takes no time because we have auto healing, and business logic changes, which I showed you, which would take 2 to 3 hours, we can do in minutes. So in summary, our platform can do what today's frameworks take hours upon hours, and in sometimes days, in minutes. That's really the nutshell of, and that's where the ROI is. So what that means is, if you could do, let's say, just a few test cases per day, 1 to 1.5 or 2 test cases per day, you can easily do 6 or 8 or 10, depending on your situation, using our platform. Next slide. Yeah, this is basically, I just spoke to this. Next slide. So we did the demo already. So let's switch to, if there is another slide, we can go to. Yeah, so this is essentially what I'm saying, which is, for example, we can handle any SaaS app, any complex and frequent changes, and any integration customizations and end-to-end business process testing. This is true for any app, right? Any app, Salesforce, SAP, Workday, any of those things. Next slide. Yeah, so let's open it up for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Arvind and Raj, for the extremely insightful presentation. As Raj said, I'm going to open up the floor for any questions. Please feel free to use the chat box. I think there was a question, Raj, when you were doing the demo. Let me just see 1 second. An individual asked if we can generate the code in a page factory pattern.
We can generate, so I hope you can hear me. We can generate the code in any particular format or like, for example, a lot of customers ask for a page object model. Yes, we can do that kind of stuff. Or any specific framework requirement you have, we can do that. Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Again, please feel free to write it in the chat box. Just give it a few more minutes if there are
Sure.
questions. And again, if you are, I think we have one question here. Let's see. Yes, and again, if you have any questions, also please feel free to email us at webinars@intrait.com. Someone asked, is this also useful for API testing as well?
Yes, we support API testing. I did not demonstrate that. I didn't get a chance to demonstrate that, but we do we support API testing as well. So there are a couple of ways you can think of API testing. One is a pure API testing, like a Postman. It does, right? Postman is an open source solution, which does a good job of API testing. So that's one way to test it. The other way to test APIs is to validate the UIs and APIs are in sync, right? What I mean by that is, let us say that you're going through processing a payment, or you're processing, an invoice or some business process function. How do you know what you're seeing in the application is right? How do you validate that? One way to validate that is by leveraging APIs and API testing. So you can actually call one or more a concatenation of APIs and then get a result set and compare that to what you're seeing in the UI. It does two things. It does UI and it makes sure that UI and APIs are in alignment and they're not off. And if they're off, you can find out what is going on. So you can do assertions or verifications or validations using that. So that's something we already do.
Someone else asked, does it also detect change in functionality of the application? You show that it detects a label change, but how about a business flow change?
So when there is a business flow change, so say for example, somebody actually moved certain objects around, right? Or when you say a flow change, I mean, if there is a new page inserted, that could be a flow change. So when that happens, we actually, when you run the same test case, it will stop at some point and say, look, I'm seeing objects that I'm not able to recognize. When whatever actions you asked for will not, we will not be able to do. So that's one way it detects the change and it pauses there. So you could go back and I did not show this to you, but in the test case, you can edit and add more steps live. So you could just add a couple of extra steps and it will align itself to the business flow change and then it continues to run. So there is that capability where it can detect the change in additional fields or additional screens, and then it will react accordingly. So at that point, either you can decide to add a new test case or modify an existing test case. We support both.
Thank you. Let's see if there's any more questions we have at the moment. Again, please drop your questions in the QA box. I think right now that's all the questions we have. Raj and Arvind, I just wanted to thank you for your time, and I wanted to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. Again, we will be emailing out the link to the recorded webinar. I think we have one more question possibly. Are there any are there any test cases which cannot be automated via this tool?
Not, I mean, like, yeah, there are some situations, like say, for example, you have a client server application where you have a thick client. You know, those kinds of things we don't deal with. But anything other than that, we can absolutely do it. So anything where you have a web SaaS cloud application, just to give you some names of the applications, applications that everybody will have heard of, applications like SAP, even SAP ECC in the web mode, SAP Hybris, Ariba, Concur, SuccessFactors, Workday, Salesforce, all of these types of applications, we do all of those. There is no issue. The only limitation for us at this point would be if you have a client server application, then we won't be able to do it because we don't deal with the thick client at this point. Other than that, we can handle anything.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to thank Raj and Arvind for this very insightful webinar. And again, I wanted to thank everyone for attending.
Joya, there is one more question.
Sure.
There is one more question on the screen here. Do they support PaaS like Pivotal? Absolutely. Pivotal is just a platform. I mean, if you build any app on Pivotal, we absolutely support it, and we can also support Pivotal by default. But mostly people use Pivotal to build apps, and we absolutely support that.
Okay. This is great. Just keep the questions coming. I'll give it a few more minutes if anyone else has any more questions.
Yeah. So other question, let me tell you, typically what I get from people is, hey, does it work with React? Does it work with iframes? Does it work with some other web technologies? The answer is yes. We support all of those various technologies. And we also, the other question I get asked is, oh, does it also only do Java Selenium? I want Ruby Selenium, or I want Python Selenium. We support all of those flavors as well. So it is a very powerful solution. Just imagine in the day in the life of a test analyst today, right? You're scrambling to meet with the demands of how many test cases you need to create and how much scripting you have to get done. And now you have to know Python, you have to know Selenium, you need all of those things. You have to be an expert in all those things. Plus you have to be an expert in the business functions. All those things are not possible in one human being. So what we are saying is things like scripting is commodity capabilities, right? That is not going to get you either job satisfaction or a growth in your career. The growth in your career happens the more deeper you understand the business aspects and how to mitigate the risk. So using a product like Autonomic, you are able to leave the commodity work to the tool. So the tool takes care of generating the script, maintaining the script. Those are low value add functions. Those are done by the tool. But now it frees your time up to focus on how do you reduce, where do you need to test? How much testing is needed? Am I testing the right things? Am I reducing the risk for my business? These are harder, more important things. And that's what you need to focus on, testers need to focus on. So that's what our solution helps people do.
Thank you, Raj. Again, just opening the floor for any more questions, last minute questions. All right, I'm just going to wrap this up. Once again, Raj, thank you so much. And Arvind, thank you so much for today's webinar. I definitely learned a lot. And I just, again, wanted to thank everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you, Joya. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.